The river has always been a place of risk for buffalo herds, especially for the youngest members. Predators are drawn to the water, knowing that sooner or later a mistake will be made. On that hot morning, the herd approached the river to drink, moving carefully but with visible tension. Among them was a young buffalo calf, still inexperienced and unaware of the danger surrounding it. As the adults spread out along the riverbank, the calf stepped slightly away from the protection of the group. Its mother was close, watching over it, but for just a few seconds, her attention shifted toward the rest of the herd. That brief moment was enough. Beneath the calm surface of the water, movement went unnoticed. A crocodile had been waiting there for several minutes, perfectly still and patient, conserving energy. This is how crocodiles hunt, by remaining invisible until the exact second their prey becomes vulnerable. When the calf lowered its head to drink, the attack happened instantly. The crocodile lunged forward, its powerful jaws closing around the calf's leg. There was no warning, no sound, only sudden violence. The young buffalo cried out as it was pulled toward the river, its hooves slipping in the wet mud. The mother reacted immediately, charging toward the edge, but she stopped short. Entering the water would have meant facing the crocodile on its own territory, where escape is almost impossible. The river erupted with movement as the predator dragged the calf closer to deeper water. The calf struggled desperately, but its strength faded with each second. The herd gathered nearby, restless and uncertain, unable to intervene without putting themselves in extreme danger. At that moment, everything suggested this would be another harsh outcome dictated by nature, a reminder that at the river, even a small mistake can be fatal. While the calf struggled against the crocodile's grip, a large figure nearby remained still, seemingly unaffected by the chaos unfolding at the river's edge. A hippopotamus, partially submerged, had been observing the scene from a distance. Though hippos are generally seen as slow and lethargic animals, they can be surprisingly territorial and protective when the situation calls for it. The crocodile was focused entirely on its prey. It pulled the calf further into the water, and the baby buffalo's cries grew fainter as it was dragged into deeper territory. The mother buffalo watched helplessly, knowing that charging into the water would only lead to her own death. Her calf's fate seemed sealed. For a few long moments, it seemed like there would be no escape for the young buffalo. The river, a place of life for the herd, had now become a place of death. The rest of the herd stood frozen along the bank, uncertain whether to stay or attempt a rescue. They knew that if they ventured too close to the water, they too could become targets for the crocodile. But just as it seemed the calf was on the brink of being fully submerged, a disturbance rippled across the surface of the water. The hippopotamus moved. It didn't rush or make a dramatic charge, but it shifted with purpose. The massive animal began to glide silently toward the conflict, its huge body cutting through the water without a splash. The crocodile, momentarily distracted by the approaching threat, released the calf and turned to face the newcomer. The hippo's actions were not typical. Hippos, despite their size and apparent calm, are known to be territorial and aggressive when provoked. It seemed the hippo had decided that the crocodile had gone too far. With no hesitation, the massive animal made its way toward the predator, pushing its enormous bulk with surprising speed. The crocodile, now realizing it had met its match, recoiled. The hippopotamus wasn't about to allow it to take the calf. With one swift motion, the hippo struck the crocodile with its head, sending the predator tumbling away from the riverbank. For a moment, everything was still. The buffalo calf, though weak and trembling, was now safe on the muddy bank. The mother rushed to its side, nudging it gently to check for injury. The crocodile, however, had been forced to retreat, at least for now. The hippo, satisfied that it had done its part, paused. It glanced once at the buffalo, then slowly began to move back toward the deeper waters of the river, as though the intervention had been nothing more than a routine part of the river's natural order. The crocodile did not disappear immediately. After being forced away from the riverbank, it remained at a distance, partially submerged and watching. Crocodiles are known for their patience, and retreat does not always mean surrender. However, this time, the presence of the hippopotamus changed the balance of power in the river. The hippo positioned itself between the crocodile and the shore, creating a physical barrier. Its massive body blocked the predator's path, making any renewed attack extremely risky. Hippos are among the most dangerous animals in Africa, and even crocodiles avoid direct confrontations with them whenever possible. On the riverbank, the buffalo calf struggled to stand. Its leg, still wet and trembling, showed signs of the attack, but it was not fatally injured. The mother remained close, lowering her head and nudging the calf gently, encouraging it to move away from the water. Other adult buffaloes slowly approached, forming a loose protective circle around the young animal. The herd's behavior reflected experience rather than panic. Buffalo are known to protect their own, especially calves, but they also understand the danger of the river. None of them stepped into the water. Instead, they relied on numbers and positioning, creating a visual barrier that discouraged the crocodile from attempting another strike. The hippo stayed where it was, barely moving, as if standing guard. Its intervention had not been driven by concern for the calf, but rather by territorial instinct. The crocodile had disrupted the area the hippo considered its own, and the response had been immediate and decisive. After several minutes, the crocodile slowly sank deeper into the water and drifted away, its interest clearly diminished. The opportunity had passed. Predators rely on surprise, and without it, the risk outweighs the reward. With the immediate threat gone, the hippo finally turned and moved back toward the center of the river. The water settled, and the tension that had gripped the riverbank began to fade. For the buffalo herd, the crisis was over, but the consequences of what had just happened were still unfolding. As the hippo disappeared into the river's depths, the buffalo herd remained near the water's edge. The crisis had passed, but the moment lingered in the air, heavy with the weight of what had just occurred. The young calf, though shaken, stood on its own now, its legs trembling but not broken. Its mother stayed close, watching it carefully as the rest of the herd began to gather around. It was not just the calf that had been affected. The entire herd had been put on edge. A predator had attacked one of their own, and while they had managed to avoid disaster this time, the danger had been real. The buffalo had come dangerously close to losing a member of their family, and the tension remained palpable. But then something unexpected happened. The adult buffalo, the leaders of the herd, began to move in a new formation. The mother, who had just lost control of her calf, was now leading the herd forward, away from the riverbank. This wasn't a retreat in fear, but a silent acknowledgement that their place by the water was no longer safe. The herd, as one, turned and moved further inland, leaving the river behind. At the rear of the herd, a large buffalo, an older, dominant male, paused. He stood still for a moment, watching the river as though considering something. Then he gave a low, rumbling sound, a signal to the others. His eyes briefly scanned the water, lingering on the spot where the crocodile had once lurked. With that, the entire herd moved as one, stepping away from the danger zone. But just before they left the area entirely, the older buffalo did something remarkable. He turned around and walked back toward the water's edge, stepping carefully toward the place where the crocodile had retreated. His movements were slow but deliberate, almost as if he were making a statement. The rest of the herd watched from a distance. The male buffalo reached the water's edge and paused, standing there for several long seconds. Then, as if to assert control over the space, he dipped his head to the water, letting the cool river lap against his face. He seemed to be reaffirming his authority over the land, not allowing it to remain a place of fear or uncertainty. It was a gesture of resilience. The herd would not be driven from this place by the threat of a predator. The buffalo had lived alongside the dangers of the river for generations, and they would not yield to it now. The older buffalo did not remain at the water's edge for long. After several seconds, he lifted his head and slowly stepped back toward the herd. His brief return to the riverbank had not been reckless. It was deliberate. By approaching the water again, he reinforced a crucial message to the group. The river was still part of their territory, and fear would not dictate their behavior. The herd responded immediately. Their formation tightened, and the adults positioned themselves around the calf once more. The young buffalo was now walking more steadily, supported by the presence of its mother and the calm movements of the others. What could have turned into chaos instead became a controlled retreat guided by experience. From the river, the hippopotamus remained nearby, partially submerged and watching. Though it did not intervene again, its presence alone acted as a deterrent. Hippos often assert dominance over specific areas of water, and predators learn to recognize and respect those boundaries. The crocodile did not return. There was no interaction between the hippo and the buffalo, no sign of recognition or communication. The rescue had not been intentional in a social sense. It was the result of overlapping instincts. Territorial defense on one side, herd protection on the other. Still, the outcome had altered the course of the moment. As the herd moved farther inland, dust rising beneath their hooves, the older buffalo occasionally glanced back toward the river. This behavior suggested caution rather than fear. The animals understood that the danger was reduced, not eliminated. The calf stayed close to its mother, its earlier panic replaced by exhaustion. It had survived a direct encounter with one of the river's most efficient predators, something few young animals ever do. That survival would shape how the calf responded to the river for the rest of its life. Behind them, the river returned to its calm appearance, as if nothing unusual had happened. But beneath the surface, the balance had shifted, if only temporarily. The herd continued onward, carrying with them the memory of the encounter and the quiet lesson that survival often depends not on strength alone, but on timing, awareness, and the unexpected actions of others. As the herd moved away from the river, the young calf remained close to its mother, learning without words the dangers that could exist even in familiar places. The adult buffalo's brief return to the water had been a subtle signal to the entire group. Vigilance is necessary, but panic is unnecessary when reason and presence guide your actions. The calf, though still shaken, began to mirror the movements of the older animals. Its mother nudged it repeatedly, guiding its steps, teaching it how to stay alert without overreacting. The older buffalo occasionally glanced at the river, a reminder that survival required awareness of both the immediate threat and the environment beyond the immediate horizon. For the herd, this event reinforced an important social principle. Protection is collective. Individual panic can lead to catastrophe, but coordinated action increases the chance of survival. The river, which had been a place of potential death, became a lesson in patience, observation, and timing. Meanwhile, the hippopotamus had returned to deeper water, disappearing almost entirely beneath the surface. Its presence had been decisive, yet indirect. It did not participate in the herd's retreat or formation. Instead, it had allowed its natural instincts to dictate its actions. That instinctive response, though unplanned in relation to the buffalo, had prevented a tragedy. Nature often operates this way, overlapping behaviors resulting in unexpected outcomes. The crocodile, patient and persistent, would remain nearby in its territory. But the dynamics had changed. The buffalo herd had learned to respond efficiently, and the hippo's intervention had reminded both predator and prey that the river was a shared, contested space. By the time the herd settled into grazing territory farther from the river, the young calf had already internalized important survival strategies: stay close to guardians, monitor surroundings, and respect the unpredictability of the water. The adult buffalo had demonstrated that leadership and composure matter as much as size or strength in moments of crisis. The river, now calm and silent, concealed all traces of the struggle. Yet for the buffalo herd, the memory of the hippo's decisive action and the crocodile's failed attempt would remain, shaping their interactions with the river and each other for the rest of the season. The incident at the riverbank left a lasting impression on the buffalo herd. Though life in the savannah is filled with daily dangers, this event had reinforced the importance of unity, vigilance, and the unexpected ways that survival can occur. The young calf, once terrified and vulnerable, had now experienced firsthand both the threat of a predator and the protection that can emerge from the environment itself. The older buffalo, whose calm and deliberate gesture had surprised the rest of the herd, demonstrated leadership through composure. By briefly approaching the water, he had reminded the herd that strength alone is not enough. Courage, awareness, and timing are equally essential. His actions ensured that the herd retained access to the river while minimizing the risk of further attacks. The hippopotamus, though no longer present at the shore, had played a critical role. Its intervention had been instinctual, a simple enforcement of territorial boundaries, yet it had indirectly saved a life. This interaction illustrates the interconnectedness of species in the wild, where even unintentional acts can produce life or death consequences for others. The crocodile, the patient and opportunistic predator, returned to the depths of the river, waiting for another chance. Nature does not forgive mistakes, but it also does not reward luck indefinitely. For the buffalo herd, the encounter became a lesson. Awareness and cooperation can tip the balance in moments of extreme risk. Over the following days, the calf grew more confident, staying close to its mother and observing the behavior of the herd. Each adult buffalo reinforced subtle survival strategies, guiding the younger members through experience rather than instruction. The river, once a place of immediate danger, now became a site of learning, a reminder that vigilance, adaptability, and collective action are vital in a world dominated by both predator and prey. In the end, the encounter was more than a fight for survival. It was a demonstration of natural order and resilience. Life in the wild is fragile, yet every interaction, from a hippo's instinctive defense to a buffalo's composed response, contributes to the ongoing balance between risk and safety. The herd continued to thrive, carrying with them the lessons of that day, and the young calf grew stronger, guided by instinct, protection, and the enduring presence of its family. The river flowed on, calm and indifferent, but the memory of that day remained alive in the herd, a quiet testament to the unexpected ways life perseveres in the wild.